And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We're talking about Josh McErlean and how he is really doing. Coming out of basically WRC2, where he didn't do too bad, has he been struggling, both in Monaco and Sweden? But there are some positive things coming out of it. I'm one who helps him do really well. I really want him to do really well at M Sport. It's a really good team. They solidly get round people. For example, Adrian Formeau. But the difficulties, yeah. Let's talk about how Josh is really doing. Once again, inspired by an article on dirtfisher.com, McErlean starting to feel like a Rally 1 driver. And it was pretty much after this post here. McErlean, in terms of his Sweden progress, boosts his confidence for Kenya. This was from an article on WRC.com. And I think it should. He looked more comfortable with the car in Sweden. There's still a couple of buts though, but let's get into the article. So, Dirtfish basically saying, after a confidence-building Rally Sweden, McErlean is slowly beginning to feel like he belongs in the WRC. Amen to him, so should he. Shuffling down the line of journalists that formed in the gazebo that housed the media zone in Umeå, Josh McErlean approached Dirtfish's camera. His body language was reserved, they're saying. Timid, even. Basically, he was not exactly confident. And they're comparing him to, in a negative way almost, he doesn't have the confidence of a Terry Neuville or an Ott Tanak. And they even remarked how shy he's looking. And he said, wouldn't you be if you were surrounded by these guys? As in rally legends. I kind of get where he's coming from. And he has been accelerated into what is a full-time Rally 1 seat. And let's be fair, none of us, that was, come the end of last year, I think it was December when it was announced, it was kind of like almost a plot twist U-turn you'd see at the end of something like an M. Night Shyamalan movie with him going into the M Sports. We all thought, for example, Martin Sest, alas, it didn't. So, as we know, the 25-year-old, he's still finding his footing, as the article says, but the work his feet did on the pedals inside his 4 Puma Rally Sweden helped allay any feelings of what he clearly had is imposter syndrome. And I can't really blame him. The way he was, as even Dirtfish said, he was rushed in. We all know he's far from the finished article. And he said, I think this weekend's been a big help for that there. And that's what Josh was referring to his Sweden rally. He said, to be mixing it with some of the best in the world is definitely a big thing to take forward. But, again, there's no point getting too excited. There's still a lot to learn. He's also surprised at his speed. Yeah, so there we go. He's definitely not modest. But McErlean arrived in Sweden, which was a baptism of fire. Monte Carlo, where at times he was slower than Rally 2 cars. It was, let's be fair, it was embarrassing. But starting after Rally Sweden, he declared more confident. And fortunately for him, he was saying it felt a bit more natural here. He said, it's not as daunting, I would say. Casino Square is daunting in itself. Yeah, I get that. He said, never mind the clientele you're with. So yeah, it's a bit more natural. Still a long way to go in terms of properly feeling at home with the whole thing. But yeah, it takes rallies to do that. He's under instruction to get through these first 3 rallies and build his experience. So I think the good thing is, I've been giving him a hard time here. But the good thing is from N Sports, I'm pretty much sure, look, let's just get through these 3 rallies, finish them, whatever, and then we see where we are. So there's a very low pressure on him, kind of like the low pressure on Monster last year. And he said this is a bit, the M Sport boss, Richard Milner, said that's a bit frustrating for him because it's not what they like to do, being told just to finish every stage and don't make any mistakes because it's hard in your mindset to drive that way. He said, but it paid off in Monty. I think here's a bit more tricky. I'm not sure it'll pay off in quite the same way because the other guys will be very fast and there's a lot more consistency here. He carried on with saying, okay, we have the tyres, we have the things we don't know about yet that would affect the results. But if he can get these first 3 under his radar, three, that was the goal. And then we start reassessing from the Canaries onwards and we'll see what we want him to do. I think, yes, he's there. Rally Island obviously helps him, but he's there, I think, for his talent, which is more than what some people might be able to say unfairly, perhaps, about Monster. The thing is, Martin Sess beat both of them in the same car with less rally experience, let's say, of these rally cars, which is embarrassing. But McErlean, however, he has said he has laid down a marker. Now, discounting SS16 where he got stuck in a snowbank, he was never within 1 second a kilometre of the stage winner on round one. He was regularly under that barometer in Sweden, and even as close as 0.28 kilometres on SS6, as he set the 5th fastest time and beat 2 world champions. That's Neuville and Calais Rovanperä. So that's no mean feat. He did have his moments. He said, we completed every stage mile at Monty. We did it there. We did it here. But the biggest thing to take away is we showed some good pace, and that's important, which would obviously raise the eyebrows of a Gregor Monster, for example. And he said, it surprised me, to be honest. I'm not sure about anyone else, but their expectations were. But it was nice to take away, and it's a nice confidence boost going forward. He said, where do we take that hike in pace from? That hike in pace? And he really wasn't sure. He said, from the test to shakedown, everything felt quite natural. Obviously, you don't know what the speed is like on testing. You have no, let's say, reference to speed all times. Everyone tests on a different road, and you can't go by teammates. At that point, he's once again talking about it just feels natural, and he doesn't know why it's been so quick straight away. We have shown speed on gravel last year, but we still weren't that close to Sami Piari. And he plans for things to continue in Kenya, which, let's be fair, is one of the hardest rallies of the year. Absolutely. Let's just ignore that drive to survive thing there, which is obviously from my previous one with the second headline, see you later. So the Safari Rally Kenya is another total step what is into the unknown for McErlean. He did the East African Classic Rally in 23, but has never done that WRC event, arguably the hardest rally of the year. But his co-driver won't land in Africa suddenly believing they can fight with the very best. I think that's going to be absolutely unrealistic. It's once again going to be a learning process with a view of him being there hopefully next year. But McErlean said himself, yeah, it's going to be another new experience. It's obviously a bucket list one. It's been on the WRC calendar for many years now. And he said, looking back at the days of Colin McRae and the snorkel and the helicopter shots is definitely a nice thing to be looking forward to. But yeah, no expectations again. He said, I think it's going to be an endurance event. I mean, look, well, to be fair, most rallies are, as it's shown in the past years. So a different approach maybe is needed to be there at the finish, and anything can happen there with the result. If you remember last year, there were so many punctures. The only guy that didn't seem to be affected by it was the eventual winner, Calais. McErlean did confess his knowledge of the country from the 2-week classic event. Certainly doesn't do any harm. And he added, yeah, okay, maybe not on the driver's side, but maybe the mentality of never giving up. I think some of that mentality came in Sweden at a point. And I just want to end with what I thought was interesting on the wiki. Yeah, I don't really go on the Wikipedia, but just to show this guy does have some pace. In 2024, he signed for TalkSport to drive a Skoda Fabia in WRC2. He began his campaign claiming what was his medium podium, a second place in Portugal, which is by no means feat, and fighting for a podium again at Rally Italia. Once again, before a puncture pulled, no luck there, before a puncture again. And he also fought the top positions in Poland until he crashed during the penultimate stage. Whoopsie. But during the remaining championship listed rallies, McErlean and Fulton, they never finished outside the top 8. And bearing in mind how many people enter in that division, it's quite impressive. We had a best result of 5th coming in Central Europe, and they contested Rally Japan whilst not listed for points in the WRC standings. He finished 9th. So you think, not particularly great just by the finishes, but he showed some pace. He is, I think, the real deal. And as harsh as I've been on him, maybe it's only because I'm expecting bigger things from him. But there we go. Anyway, if you made it to the end, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely fantastic. But having said that, just you clicking on this and watching it is more than enough. But until then, I just want to say stay safe. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon.